All right, Jason, you're live, man. You're ready to go.
All right, so here we are. How are you today? Thank you so much for joining in. Today, we are going to talk about 12 steps to buying large multifamily. These are the 12 steps that I've used throughout our process back when we first got into the direction of buying apartment buildings, which started back in 2016. And we've used these steps and continue to use these steps today to buy and sell over 800 units of multifamily properties in about 5 states. So we're going to cover these steps today. I'm going to give you the high line, talk in depth about each step. I'm going to set myself up a timer here so we know where we are. And I think I can only see my screen until we get out of this. So if you do have questions, just write them down or throw them in the chat box. I'll come out of this once we jump through here, and we will dive into any questions that you guys have until there are no more, or until Nick and team say we've had enough of you, Jason. So we are at that stage here. Yarusi Holdings is my company. We're a multifamily investment firm here in New Jersey. We do not actually invest in large multifamily here in New Jersey. It's all out of state for a number of reasons. So a little bit about me. I have a wife and 3 amazing kids and 2 bulldogs. My wife is my partner in our operation, in everything we do, from Yarusi Holdings all the way through our platform and our brands, which is our podcast, the Jason and Peely Project. We've had about 500,000 downloads in the podcast. So we talk about tactical advice for a fulfilling life, mental fortitude, growing health, and improving your wealth. So I met my wife working at a bar back at the Frying Pan. So we did not go traditionally to real estate or large multifamily from the start. As I said, we did a number of different aspects of real estate and construction, and then really pivoted into real estate back in 2012. I wear and eat mainly the same thing each day. I'm not very flexible, although I run probably about 300 miles a month. I'm general partners over 800 units in Kentucky, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Texas. 2 new properties under contract closing first week of September and mid-September. Like I said, I run a lot, do CrossFit a lot, and I'm the host of the Jason and Peely Project. So before we dive in here today, we're going to just talk about each of these steps. And for some of these steps, you may be more fluent in. For some of these, you may need more work in, or these may just be your first really thought about actually jumping into real estate in general or buying apartment buildings. So generally the first block, and this is what we cover when we work with others to help them achieve that. And you can see down at the bottom, www.mfformula.com if you want to learn more about really the blocks in depth. But block 1 is finding your foundation. It's vision and goal setting. Ultimately, if you have no goal, then it doesn't matter what steps you take. And it took us, where we were very busy with construction. My family company is lifting and moving buildings, and my dad's done that for about 45 years now, amazing or not. Hurricane Sandy happened, and we just got crushed with the workload here. And we actually moved back out, my wife and I, to New Jersey, and so did my little brother, to help with the family business. I knew this was not the route that we wanted to continue to go with our life. I love my family, but ultimately we were having our first child, and we knew we wanted to find a way to control our time and not have a job dictate our time. So we thought we were making the most logical decision, and we started in active real estate. We started flipping houses, wholesaling, Airbnb, and we quickly found, and my wife actually even became a realtor, and we quickly found that besides all the construction work, we had now just created more and more jobs for us. So we did that really till about, even we were still doing it up till about 2 years ago, when we finally went all into large multifamily. But back in 2015, my wife had coffee with a friend, and they were buying houses in the Midwest, and they were buying these houses and putting together a team, fixing them up and renting them out, and then pulling out their capital and basically rinsing and repeating. We looked at that model, and back with the management experience that we had, we just thought that might be a great avenue for us. So instead of buying houses, we actually started looking at 2s and 3s and 4 families, because that gave us the ability to go out there and just accumulate as many units as possible. We knew from early on that scale was the direction to go, but we thought the 2 and 3 units were safer, which we quickly figured out. Although the model was good, it wasn't quickly scalable or easily scalable. So we picked up a couple of properties. They were in high distress. We fixed them up. We got them rented, and quickly, money starts showing up in the mailbox. And it was really us putting the team together. We weren't doing any of the physical work. It was us creating the structure, creating the plan, implementing the plan, reaping the rewards. And it occurred to us 6-7 months into that while this was awesome, setting up this narrative here, that if we wanted to get to the point here to just create the legacy and create the outcome for our future, that we had to look at this differently. And it occurred to me, if we could do this on a 2 and 3 family, what was the difference from doing this on a 2 family versus a 10 unit or 100 unit? And I brought this to my wife, and of course, there was this moment of, wide eyes, because we hadn't thought about this before. So it was this thing like you're almost achieving the unachievable, right? So it's like the 4-minute mile, because you don't know it exists until Roger Bannister does it, and then in the next year, 10 people can run a 4-minute mile. It's the same thing. When you don't know something exists, it seems like you can't accomplish it. So we looked at that and we said, this would give us the ability to buy a larger building and treat it more like a business and not like a mom and pop operation. So our first thing was to set the goals. We wanted to buy a 100-unit apartment building. We wanted to buy this because it would allow us to just focus on one building instead of having 52 families or 33 families or a mix 2, 3s, and 4s. And for that became our vision and our goal. And what that helped us do is it helped us to align with that step there. So we started thinking about that. Okay, now we just had to get over block 2, finding the mindset, finding the ability to understand that it wasn't the building that was holding us back. It was our minds, right? It was the roadblock that we were putting in place here, where mentally we couldn't see it. So we were assuming that it couldn't really be achieved. So what we did is we just looked around and we found other people just like you and I that were doing this. And not only were they doing this, but they were doing it successfully. And when we saw that, we said, well, this is absolutely something we can do. We just had to understand why we wanted to do it. And as you go through this process, you'll understand that when you buy a 4 family, there may be 4 units, but if 1 is vacant or 2 is vacant, that's now 25% or 50% vacancy. If the same thing happened on a 100-unit, you're at 98 or 99% occupied. You may have 1 roof for a 100-unit building. You may have 1 roof for a 4-unit or 4 roofs if you have 4 single-family homes in a row. You can hire a full-time staff, a maintenance guy, a leasing person that is paid through the building if it's 100 units. With a 4 family, you need to have handymen or other people that can help you. You can't really scale with the management company because their fees are very expensive for what would be a single family, unless you're going to accumulate a lot of these. Where for a multifamily, you're able to get a rate where you can have someone else manage the building, implementing your plan. And then banks see the 100-unit as a much safer investment than they would from a 4 family. And so they're going to look at your strength as a buyer for the 4 family, because there's a lot of scenarios that could create really disruption in that 4 family. Whereas a 100-unit building, there's 100 units, 100 tenants or more that could potentially pay that rent. So they treat that differently, and you can treat it differently. You can look at it as a business instead of just a house. So getting your mind there was an important thing for us. And it's still something we work on today. So, we're going on $2, $3, $5, $7 million buildings. And now we're looking at 10, 15, $20 million buildings. Same thing. Now we have to scale up our mind, understand the concept, and understand the steps we need to implement. But when you set goals and then you put your mind to it, that's where you can really take action and make it happen. So setting the cornerstone. Like I said, we got mentors and we started looking at what we were doing. And that's the same thing we implement over at MF Formula, is started looking at what you're doing and then trying to understand everything that need to be done in terms of multifamily. Single family and multifamily, there's a lot of crossover terms, but there's also a lot of crossover. There's a lot of change in wording. So you want to make sure that you're getting the talk track down. You're understanding the different metrics you may be using for large multifamily compared to single family homes, or flips compared to syndication. Start understanding the dialogue so you can start looking at it as a true investment vehicle and not something that you're playing with. So we got in there and just started understanding the different dynamics we were looking for, how we could put this together, what were some of the return structures that we were looking for, what were some of the different components, where returns may be designated based by cap rate, where just understanding how we could get on a conversation and have a talk track. And when we didn't know a word, we didn't hide, we asked, because it's your ability to learn that's going to allow you to ask better questions, going to allow you to get further along with the path that you're trying to take here. So we set the cornerstone. Now that we started looking at properties and we started getting mentors and we started understanding the terms, getting our mind around it, creating our vision of finding a 100-unit property, well, then we started looking at how to analyze these properties. And this was really the first step to understand the metrics, why this was scalable, why we could do this, how this would take from finding a down payment or looking to raise capital, or what the expenses look like from a property if it did have a management company, or if I did have 2 maintenance people instead of 1 maintenance person, or what would my utilities look like? What would it look like if the tenants paid utilities versus the owner paying utilities? What were anticipations that we could do with rents? If we were looking at rent increases, what was the feasibility of us capturing these rent increases over 12 months, over 18 months, or over the horizon of 3 years? Where were points in business plans that we could find really gaps in or faults in that we could look at implementing a strategy that would take advantage of where the current building would be doing? So what it's important to understand for is that when you look at real estate, you have to pick a niche. So today, if large apartments buildings is appealing to you, okay, well then put the time in to go in there. If this isn't for you, that's fine. If flipping's for you, go for that. But you have to give the time to evolve within the platform. You can't get sidelined on finding 7 different shiny objects that you jump from one to the next to the next. You can't fully commit. You do not have to do 100 apartment buildings a year. You could do 1 apartment building and be set up for a very long time. It's all in the work to understand the process here. This may not be as quick as finding a house to wholesale, but the overall growth in your wealth and legacy can be substantial compared to having multiple deals of wholesaling. So finding your vision, finding your mindset, finding your why, that's going to lead your journey here. So for us, we started to learn to underwrite deals so we could understand how to look at a deal, how to understand how others were looking at deals. And then we moved that along into our process to really brand it. If you're going to get out there, just like today, when I show up, I am my brand. And if you have a social media profile, you have a brand. Whether you are out there talking about your health, politics, faith, family, arguing on Twitter, I don't know, but drinking beer out of a helmet, whatever that is a brand you're building. And as you do this and you start wanting to take this to the next level, you have to make sure that your brand is identifying with the direction that your vision and goals are aligning you to. So if you want to grow a $1 billion company with amount of assets you have under management, and your profile is not aligning to that, then you may have trouble building your business because there's not a meeting of the minds between where you're going. There's probably not much more of resumes being sent out anymore. People are just going to go to your social profile and see you there first before that. So if you're going to raise millions of dollars from investors to buy apartment buildings, you have to look at your brand overall and see how you connect. And you can only be responsible for where you are today. So what you have yesterday, there's nothing wrong with you changing today to move the story forward. So if you want to get serious in any form of real estate or other, look at your brand, look at your business, and how can you now identify with the direction you want to go. So like we said, we have a podcast. We talk a lot of real estate in the podcast, a lot of health, a lot of wealth, and that's important to us because that's the format of our lives, and we move that direction forward. We do a weekly newsletter. We have a YouTube channel. Now, you don't have to do all these. You can pick one. You can, if you're great at writing articles, you may go on LinkedIn and talk about the narrative moving forward in the real estate markets. You can do a lot of things to build your brands, but it's important to know that what you're doing is people are watching. So how you set up your story, people will take notice. And how you do everything, or how you do anything, is how you do everything. It's a phrase commonly said, but it's very important. If you find an apartment building where people will get stuck is they don't do the groundwork. And so when they get a good deal, they can't capitalize because they don't have the foundation built. So take these steps today, look at them on a high level and see where you can build this into your process, whether it's here with a large apartment building, whether you want to go to MF Formula and talk with us more and set up a free call, whatever you want to do, or if you want to do this with Airbnb, you have to look at it, how you can scale this and create the narrative that you're looking for that's going to fit your future. So the next is market selection. Like I said, I showed you the states we are currently active in. We select markets based on a number of different parameters. And we found this working with others because for New Jersey, New Jersey has a lot of great real estate, but for large multifamily, it didn't fit what we were looking for a number of reasons. So high taxes, older buildings, higher insurances, poor eviction laws, the price per unit versus the price per rent, higher expenses, just not really a landlord-friendly state. A lot of these factors deterred us. So we started looking at other markets and markets that had a strong MSA. So they had 250,000 people or more in the metropolitan statistical areas. Or we were also looking at job growth. We were looking at they had moderate job growth and job diversity. What that means is that no job or no job sector was taking up more than 20% of the industry. So this wasn't a steel town where if the steel employer went under, it would take down the town. We also looked at moderate population growth, crime, number of new units coming online, and then also the absorption rate. So of all of the units coming online, how quickly were they be taken down? So if there was 1,000 units being built each year, but the need was 1,500 units, we knew it was a very attractive environment because we were going to be able to buy buildings that existed and take those buildings and reposition them and really fulfill that need and push that need forward. We wanted to see really blue collar and working class neighborhoods. That's where we fit. That is the largest driver in America. So we really want to target that need and create affordable housing that's great communities that people can just have better places and better communities to live. And we find if we could look in markets and find that kind of building and do that, not only will our tenants benefit, but also we will benefit, which will now trickle down to our investors. So it was a thought process. Make these better as communities. People now have a better place to live. The reward of that is the tenants now are not living in a building that's defunct and are now really being able to, they'll pay more rent, which will lead to more money for our firm and our investors. So it's a win across the board, which is important in pretty much all businesses. So set in the corner, roles and responsibilities. Like I said, this is a team sport. And I know there's, I think Matt Faircloth is talking, good friend, he's talking about the multifamily team. Now he's talking about the internal team, and there's the internal team and the external team. And they're both massively important. And why they're both massively important is because you can have the greatest plan in the world, but if your team can't implement that plan, then it's all for naught. So there's ultimately a number of different roles on your internal team. It's going to be lead generation. It's going to be underwriting. It's going to be asset management. It's going to be due diligence. It's going to be capital raising and investor relations. Property management could be internal, and now external could be your property management, would be your brokers. and that it could be your bankers. It will be in your insurance people, your accounting people. It will also be anyone that may work with you for depreciation, like a cost segregation person. So finding these team members is huge. Now, what we always preach and teach is that the building is the last thing to come. The first steps is understanding what you want, getting your mind ready, learning the terms, understanding how to underwrite, finding your market, building your team, identifying the property you want, and now finding your investors and raising capital to get there. Because if you do the first thing and find the building, you find a great building, well, if you have nothing to support you, you are not going to be able to get it done. So we build out our team around us. Now we find the property manager we want to work with. And now why this is so key is because that's the group that's going to implement your plan. So we want to make sure that if we're looking for a 100-unit building, the property management company has at least 4,000 to 6,000 units under management. The reason that's important is because we don't want a company that's trying to scale up to meet our demand. We want a company that can just put us in their process. We also want a company that's fluent with BC assets. We want a company that has some form of in-house construction. We're looking for a team that has real-time data. So we are identifying the right partner to work with. So when we bring a plan to them, they can not only implement the plan, but they can also give us real guidance on whether or not our plan can be implemented correctly or if they would suggest any adjustments. Massively important to make sure you're on point with the right partners. Same thing with insurances. Insurance can be very expensive. You can pay $350 to $700 a unit for insurance. So you want to make sure you have the right insurance person giving you the right insurance for the property, meeting the right things you need for your property. Beyond that, working with bankers. I see people get stuck where they will work with one banker, but ultimately that's just one person with one tool. So we like to talk to multiple bankers. And so right now we have deals being done that are agency deals, Fannie and Freddie, that are community banks being done. We also have a credit unit doing a deal in a bank. So each of these is going to have different opportunities that may fit the investment. So you find the investment, and then you know from your talks what kind of banker with what kind of loan might fit this. You don't find the loan and then find the building. You have to find the investment and then look at the tools you built through your team. And that's going to help you identify what is the right tool for this. So you're not, using something that you just is the only option for you. Same thing with brokers. There are brokers with different strengths, right? Especially in the commercial world. So identifying how you can work with them. Some of the things that happen with brokers is that they want to make sure that you're serious, right? They get a lot of calls. A lot of people want to do this, and they want to build your trust. One, because it's their reputation, their brand on the line. If they bring you to the table and you can't close a deal, that looks horrible on them. So you want to make sure you're real. I've heard that a broker will get calls, and of the calls they get, and maybe potentially they'll send a deal to someone. Of the calls, say they get 100 calls over a week, 20 people will get back to them out of that 100. So it's not a high bar for you to stand out and start doing more work to show you're serious and put the work out there. But creating that narrative, creating that follow-up, because you will find that luck comes when you're actually putting in the work, right? The luck does not exist if you're just hoping. So put the work in, it will take you to that next step. And that leads us into block 8, creating your investor network. Now, how are we raising money without a property? Well, I go through really 5 steps here, and it's easier now that we've done. It's actually not. So I'll say this. Let me take that back. It's actually always great to be able to raise money, because I don't see it as raising money. I see it on, is this an opportunity to help the other person who is an investor? Because I may, in my mind, have the best investment on the face of this earth. However, if it doesn't fit that investor's criteria of what they're looking for, then it's not a fit. It's not a fit for them. It doesn't matter how great I think it is. So I go through 5 steps here. And the reason for this is, just like I was new to large apartment investing, a lot of investors have never heard of this before. So the first conversation is identifying what that investor is looking for. Are they looking for stabilized properties? Are they looking for a short-term hold, less than 12 months, or 5-year hold, or are they open for 10-year holds? Are they looking for cash flow? Are they looking for depreciation? Are they looking for tax advantages? What is the need for them? Are they looking to diversify? Are they trying to move some of their money from the stock market into something that is asset backed? So any of these arenas will be able to help you understand what they're looking for. And next, number 2 is talking to you. Who are you? And if you haven't done real estate or you haven't done multifamily deals, what you have is you have to talk to your experiences that you're lending to this. You may be an exec at a company and you've grown in that company. You may have started small businesses that you've sold. You may have done XYZ. You may have accomplished this. So any of that can lead to the conversation of who you are. So number 1 is identify how you can help that investor. Number 2 is who you are. And then number 3 is talking about large apartment investing. Why is this a space that you want to be into? Why is this the space? What is this that you're looking for? And for us, we talk to it. It's an amazing opportunity because apartment buildings are one of the best investment vehicles because unlike most forms of real estate, they have cash flow. They have potential appreciation, depreciation, debt pay down, tax advantages. They can take advantage of so many different elements that can really reap the rewards. It can be so many different wins that it just provides such a great resource for you to grow and scale. So we talk about that, and that's why we like it. We talk to the avenues. Then number 4 is we talk about the specific investments we're looking for. And so what we do here is we create a mock deal. And if we've done deals now, we can show them deals we've done. But if we didn't before we found our first deal, we created the mock of the 100-unit building, a 1-pager showing the investment of what we are looking for, of the type of returns, the type of structure it would have. And for that, we were able to talk to that. Hey, we're looking in this market. So we're looking in this market because we like all the demographics. We like the different employment factors here. We like the type of housing available. We like how we can continue to change the narrative in this market. We're looking for this type of building. And generally at that point, we'll leave the investor if we don't have a deal yet. So now we understand what they want. They understand who we are, why we're looking at large multifamily, and what kind of buildings we're looking for. Now, where this generally falls off is that if you have the deal and you're trying to do all of that and then show them a deal, it's too much. And when people get overwhelmed with information or data, the fight or flight in them just says no. So you don't want to push the narrative to a no just because you need money. See, at this stage, which is always great, we don't need the money. And I never want to be in a point to need investors' money. That's not where this is. This is an opportunity for investors to get involved in a great opportunity. Hands down. That's it. If they works for them, we would love to have them as part of the deal. If it does not, great. If it is, it does in the future, perfect. If it doesn't, do they know somebody else now hearing what we do who this may work for? So at that stage, when we do have an investment, we leave that opportunity at stage 4 saying, is this something you're interested in? And if so, how much capital would you be looking to invest? Now, here's where this is important. Because if you have 100 talks and ultimately find that you can raise $3 million, well, now you can safely identify what kind of properties you can go after. Instead of just going out there and finding a $5 million building and hoping you can raise money, you now know comfortably that you have the opportunity and the talk track and the reach to raise capital that could reach a $6 or a $7 million building. So it's highly effective to do this before you have the building, because now you create that comfort where you don't have to rush to a finish line. You can now put together the pieces. So ultimately, when we have a deal, we can actually bring those deals back to the investors. And that's why our raises do not take weeks or months, and we're able to do raises in days. And sometimes we've done a raising the capital for the deal in a day, because we've done the track work before we've gotten to that step of actually needing the money. So that's step 8. Step 9 is deal structure. Now, one of the team members that I did not mention there, so of course, attorneys, right? So you have your closing attorneys, and then you also have your syndication lawyers. We do syndication, and syndication is basically where we pool resources from investors who we just spoke about, so we can all buy larger assets, so we can all benefit from the economies of scale. So we will put our money along with our investors into an opportunity, and that will cover the down payment, any capital expenditures or the construction we're going to do on the property, any fees, any closing costs. And that's how the money will be allocated. And for the return of investors investing in this deal, we will give them a return. The deal structure can be broken up a million different ways. So the way I do it does not have to be the way you do it. This is just the way I do it. And for that, it works for us. Your way may work for you, and that's fine. So you learn the route for us. For us, we give a preferred return to the investors who are passive investors. That means that it's not a guarantee of cash flow or return, but they will get the first set of returns up to a certain percentage. After that set of percentage, the remaining cash flow will then be split between the limited partners and myself or our team, the general partners. So we break up the deal that way. You could do the deal just with 2 partners. You could do the deal with 4 friends. You could do the deal where there's no preferred return and there's just a straight split of cash flow. There's a lot of different ways to do these opportunities. We've just found a structure that's worked for us and is competitive in the nature for other investment firms. So that's the type of structure we do. So sourcing deals. Now, we talked earlier, one of our partners, brokers, and we talked about the narrative of getting back to them and following up. So sourcing deals now, because you're at that step, right? You understand the structure. You now have the money. You now know your partners, now know your loan options. You know who the team you're working with. You have your internal team. You understand your market. You understand the terms. You have your why, and you have your vision of where you want to go and your goals to get there. So now you can look, how do I find the deals that I can put this process into place? See, it's a lot easier at this step, right? Because instead of just, I found a deal, but I don't know if it's a good or bad deal. Well, now you can identify what's going to work within your philosophy. So now you can source deals. And of course, the brokers are the gatekeepers to a lot of deals. So you always have to have that narrative, but you do not. And I repeat, you do not just have to stick to that narrative. We have found deals directly to the seller. We have found deals through management companies. I have found deals online, just picking up the phone and calling somebody who had a property for rent and asking them if they would sell the property. I found them through cost segregation people. I found them through a friend. So the narrative is you find deals by being excited about doing this, talking about what you're doing to others, because you never know who's going to have that opportunity. And that's the same thing with investors. If you're excited about what you're doing and talk about what you're doing, other people want to be involved. Had someone that wants to invest that I was literally just, he was asking what I was doing in the next couple months. And I said I was going out to Kentucky to visit a property, and he wanted to know more, and he's curious about investing. So he asked, it wasn't me pushing anything on him, and I brought it up. It's the same thing with deals. You have to have a follow-up. It's not the time that you call one time that you're going to get a call 6 months from now. It's going to be as you call and as you follow up, you're going to be able to find deals. And a trick here, one of the best tricks, because we're actually buying a property right now that I offered on 8 months ago, is not the first time you're at that property, because the seller, especially now, might not be realistic with what they can sell the property at. And so they might have an expectation that is much higher than what the property is worth. But time definitely does heal everything. And for that, if time does heal everything, you want to know that ultimately you will follow up with that owner 5 or 6 months earlier or later, and you may find opportunities. Our first property, the 94 unit we brought in 2017, we offered, they wanted 3.2 million. We offered 2.1 million. They countered back at their original asking price at 3.2 million. We said, we appreciate that, and walked away. I mean, we gave them a reason why we offered that, because that's what the property is worth. 6 or 7 months later, that property did not sell. So we went back in there and we raised our offer $50,000. Now, no, we were still $1 million away. We did that, and they came down $600,000 off their asking price. And at that stage, we were able to negotiate this to close our first apartment building, because we followed up, and every other person had assumed the seller was unrealistic and had forgotten about the property. So foundation built, you got a deal. Now it's able to put the entire process together. And this is where all your team's going to come involved, because now is the part to start working to get your loan, get all your loan docs and get your loan commitment, have the loan for the property, get your investments together, get your investors together by now getting your syndication lawyer on board, putting together the correct paperwork so you can put on that, working with your property management company to work on the plan, the repositioning plan that you're going to implement on this property. Now you can put together all the pieces that you've already done the legwork for, so you don't find this deal and now build yourself backwards. So it's the exciting part. Now you can take everything you've now worked for to now put this into action and find your best ways to go in there and improve the property. Now, tricks here when you go to improve a property, and we're going to do this, go into block 12 takeover, day one takeover. You can make money by improving the income or reducing the expenses. Everybody's going to look at rent first. I've had my most success looking at expenses first. What I've done there is always found that the expenses, they're running wild for a number of different reasons. I found that they've had 3 maintenance people when the building needed 1. I found that they've had massive water leaks, corrected the water leaks. I've changed toilets, cut down water bills, and improved the value by $300,000. I've change over utilities from the owner to the tenants. I've gone in there and done simple things into processes that really just cut expenses across the board, changing different fee structures so it moves. So there are things you can do. On the income side, we've added on, of course, you can capture a loss of lease and get to market rent. We've added on laundry contracts, cable contracts, pet fees, move-in fees, number of different opportunities to drive income that weren't being captured on the property because the prior owner either just didn't know to do it or was lazy. And sometimes it's not that much of a hurdle here for you to get to that next step. It's you just taking action. So I do have one more bonus for you. And again, if you want to know more, you can get a call with me. Go over to mfformula.com. You can set a schedule there and just dive in for a call. Where to from here? That's going to go back to all the way to block 1, is that where to from here now is that step of what do you want to do at this point? What do you want to do at this point? Where do you want to go at this point? And if it's block 1, you'd have to decide, is large apartment investing for you? Great. I've just showed you the high-level steps you can do to get yourself started moving into you. If you're actually at block 13 after closing the deal day 1, well, what's next? Is this the property that was this your goal, just one property? Or is this part of a series of properties that you want to build into your investment? So now it's always what's next. Celebrate the day, move forward to the next day. All right, so that's what I got. I'm going to dive back here, get out of this, and we'll dive into questions if there are. I have a few minutes here. We can get those. And okay. Well, all right. So going to high-end CrossFit in DC, also travels. Awesome. Love that. Overcame many cancer. That's great. How are you getting funded for 100-unit deals? So I talked to that. If you still have questions, Tom, I ultimately, we raise capital from investors, use our own capital. We are the balance sheet to work with the lenders to get our loans. What markets are we investing in? Main market, Kentucky, second market, PA, Georgia, and then we're part of a general partnership in Texas. So those are our main markets. Being part of Shiny Object can also be on markets. You have to get highly focused in a market. So right now, if I could tell you, there's no one here that knows Louisville, Kentucky better than me. I can tell you the streets. I can tell you the neighborhood. I can tell you the path of progress. I can tell you things coming online before they're coming online, because I've really gotten myself so involved there, and we focus on not the entire city, but just 2 submarkets. So I am highly in the loop of what happens there. And when you do that, you can master it so you can be quicker to the answer instead of having to understand where you are. And that's the key to investing out of state, is to look at the area you want to be and don't jump all over the place. And after we got our first deal, we started getting deals sent to us from everywhere, so Illinois, New Mexico. And for a minute, everything looks good, but anything can look good if you don't know what to look for. Right? So you have to get really conditioned, because there are plenty of opportunities. And that's another thing for your markets. Is there enough of these type of buildings for me to look at? All right. So I prefer surrounding counties west of DC. Yep, that's good. What cap rates you look for? So cap rates is a stabilized metric. So if we're buying buildings that are not stabilized, it's something of a point here where you have to learn to or understand the attention that you can put on it to a front side. So if the expenses are normalized, but the rents are basically $300 under market, well, of course the cap rate is going to be low. So ultimately, it's the stabilized cap rate that we're looking for in the market that's going to match. It's not the buy-in cap rate, because that can be deceiving. So if you're looking for an 8 cap to go into, and you have a perfectly good Class A building that you can get for $1 that is 0% occupied, that someone will just give it to you for $1, and you could rent it easily. Well, it's a 0 cap. So if you're saying I only buy in an 8 cap, are you not going to look at that opportunity? So be careful focusing on a metric right there. Favorite markets in KY, Louisville, Georgia, is anything around the Atlanta, going in that part, Gainesville market, PA, Allentown, Texas. We're in one deal of Austin. We're a partner on that deal. We don't focus there. It's a little too far for us for the travel. How did you get started in your career? Honestly, we've just keep taking action. It's really something that we just keep jumping into there, where I've opened restaurants, I've opened a soda brewery, I've helped ramp up businesses in a number of different fashions, and work in our large construction here. And it was just the next step in the next evolution, because it fit our goals as not only as a family, but as a lifestyle. So that was why that we started looking at this direction, started moving away. Do you have a formula for finding markets? Absolutely. Yeah, it's actually one of the blocks, block 4 right there. There's 12 steps in there. I can really identify it, what you look for. Do we do subsidized housing? Yes, we do, up to 15% on a building. Depending on the building in the area, we do Section 8. We also work with some other neighborhood programs that help place veterans or maybe battered women programs. They're great things. They're great talk tracks. You can really help people, and it speaks to what we like to do to improve communities. So, but we do it to a certain threshold because it's not our core business or core model right here. All Hard Rock, Louisville. Yeah. The Hard Rock in Louisville. That's fun. All right. So I use biz lawyers to find and use investors for multi-buildings of 50 or. Yeah, that's great. I've done the same thing. And ultimately, you'll find that I don't have a money problem now. It's always finding the right opportunities, right? And so that's not to say that I have all the money in the world. It's just that I'm never looking for people's money. I'm always looking at how I can help people. And with that, if I continue to do that, I can know if their opportunity is right. So I talked to a person yesterday, and we have a property that's a 10-year hold, and they want 5-year holds. And that's fine. It's not the right timing for them. And I'm not going to force them and try and sell them on something that's not right for their vision. That's their vision. That's not me to impart their vision. I can give you the details that are about my opportunity that really fit my opportunity, but ultimately I can't, quote unquote, I can't tell them what's a good investment. It has to fit their plan as an investor. And that's important, right? You want people to be excited to be in a deal with you. If they may potentially be in a deal with you for like 3, 5, 7, 10 years, you want to have a good relationship. You don't want someone who's iffy about the deal to start with. That's not good for them. It's not good for you. It's not good for your business model. The tenant claims the pet is a service animal. Can you still charge a pet fee? It depends on the state and depends on pets where it is. If it's a service animal, I mean, that's why you have management companies, and that's why you have them know the process. You let them deal with that. And if it's something that they need for their health, I mean, I don't want their fee. So the point here is to improve buildings and make better communities. We don't look to try and get the most out of every tenant. We look for find the best place, because we find that the tenants will want to be there, right? And we don't have a high turnover in our buildings, even though we maybe increase rents $100 or $200 up to market, because we create a community. And when we do that, the tenants that are there, they understand that we're just matching the market. So we now have a better building than the surrounding properties, and they can now pay just pretty much the same thing, move to a building that's less desirable, or stay where they are, stay where their friends are, stay where maybe their kids are going to school, and pay more, of course, but have a better place where the ownership is trying to make this a better community for them. What is the exit strategy? I guess deal by deal. Absolutely. Yeah, it's deal by deal. So the first one I brought, 94 unit, it was a 7-year hold, which would have taken us to 2025. I sold that in January because the market had gotten so hot. The path of progress had just taken a turn into the area I was that was absolutely unexpected and we did not underwrite it for because there was no telling sign that would happen when we first brought that deal. We were actually capturing $100 to $150 rent bumps, doing classic turns. And with that path of progress, new investors were buying surrounding properties, and they brought the biggest, best comp that I didn't think would sell, and it sold at a substantial rate. And they started taking these and now renovate these into premium units. So I looked at that and said, I have to look at this opportunity because it's not. If I say 7-year hold, I don't just hold 7 years just to prove 7 years. You look at your investment constantly to see what's best for the investors. So we actually really we doubled our IRR back that we intended for the asset based on a 2.5-year hold compared to a 7. So we looked at opportunity and we moved. And of course, timing looks great now, but ultimately we were just looking at the dynamics in the market and the factors, and we sold. And that's what you have to do. You constantly have to look at your plan, because where you underwrite and your pro forma in year one, there may be a lot of factors that come in there and really change throughout. Typical hold time is really 5 to 10 years, depending on the play, depending on the property. So we have one right now that's we're closing in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. That's a 5-year hold. One we're closing in 2 weeks, 10-year hold. So the difference there is that they each have different business plans, where one is going to, the 5-year hold is less on the building. The building's in massively good shape. It's more on capturing loss to lease and capturing processes. 10-year hold, a lot more work in the building, a lot more transitioning of tenants, because it's in a massively desirable neighborhood. It's just the worst building in the neighborhood. So now we can push from there. Okay, which market was 94 unit? That was Louisville. Right now, today, the economy, world circumstances, a brand new investor get started. Yeah, you have to, because right now you absolutely have to look at what you're doing, because if you're trying to wait until things go up or things go down, you're never. That's why no one wins in the stock market. You never capture the market at the right time. And it's this fear dynamic here where if you're waiting for the market to bottom out, well, you're going to miss that. And then when the market starts going back up again, you're going to be too sidelined to start. So you have to start taking action, learning the steps, partnering with others, being part of teams, asking what they're doing, asking questions, and that's going to build you from there. How has COVID-19 affected our strategy? So where was it? So it slowed our strategy for a moment because we stopped capital expenditures and we had just brought in another property in January. So we looked at that. We stopped for a moment because there was a lot of uncertainty, and we also didn't want to be going into units and really conflicting with tenants who are at home. So it was about 2 months there that we had to look at that, where now we started back with the capital expenditures. We have lowered our rent increase expectation for the moment, although we're actually so strong on leasing right now. I have over 100 units. In just Kentucky, I only have 2 vacant units across all the properties. So leasing is very strong. We just have to look at now moving forward how stimulus package will factor, how just a number of different components that are outside of control. So we can't jump off the cliff just assuming that something's going to happen. We have to continue to keep our head on a swivel, move our plan forward, and then continue to pivot as needed. Do you also buy multifamilies at an auction? No, I don't do auctions because it's not my wheelhouse. So I don't want to be doing all these different things that are outside of my wheelhouse. I stay in my wheelhouse because there's enough in my wheelhouse right there. Mentors. So mentors, there's a bunch of great mentors out there. Books, podcasts, anything. So I worked with Joe Fairless for a while. I worked with a number of other people out there, but you can find a mentor, or you can have mentors that are everything else in between. So you could literally read books, you could listen to podcasts. What I did do is that we started the multifamily formula New Jersey club strictly about multifamily, because I did stop all the noise and stop listening to all these podcasts that were about every type of real estate, and I just listened to stuff that was about apartment buildings. Tom, will your multifamily formula teach us about raising capital? Yeah, Tom, the steps I actually walked through right there, that's every block. That's every block all the way through. So that's really the essence of every block. So block 8, 9 is talking with investors and raising capital right there. It's right there. All the steps you need to do, everything you need. There's everything from underwriting tools, how to source markets, how to talk to team members, how to talk to brokers, how to find deals, different income increase or different expense options. There's a million different components. It's everything that we do on our deals. I'm just basically built in there. Are you accepting application for mentees? If you want, go over to mfformula.com. You can submit over there. We'll set up a call. I'm happy to talk to you guys, see if it's a good fit for everyone, and we can talk from there. So for that, so if I go on vacation tomorrow, here's a glory. I'm 1,000 miles from my properties. So I have a plan, but this is not something where, I'm out there driving a vehicle where every turn turns me right away. Right, you implement a plan, and sometimes that plan may take a month or 2 months to really take notice. I have management companies operating all these plans. My wife grew up in Hawaii; her whole family's there, so we typically go twice a year. And why I'm there, everything's fine because I have a plan. I have people who have boots on the ground, and I'm able to have my weekly calls where every week I have a check-in call with all of our team members where we go over all the properties and identify any issues or any concerns or any parts of the practice that have to be identified. So we cover leasing, collections, construction, open items. Simple. 4 spots every call. From there, takes it to the next week and anything in between. All right. So I think I'm coming up on time, and I actually have a baby brother who just had his first baby. So I am going to get out again. There, can I put in here? I don't know if I can. So you can go down to mfformula.com. You want to hit it up there, you want to come in there, we'll set up a call. We do a lot of fun stuff over on social. So if you want to go, Instagram's probably the easiest place to find us, Jason Yarusi, or my wife, Peely. If you want to talk to her about, being a mom and being a mom doing multifamily and just crushing it. So that's what I got. I appreciate you guys. And for that, I don't know if the team's going to come back in here. I don't know how we take out here, but I'm going to leave out the studio. And of course, appreciate you guys. Bye now.